History repeats itself, guys. It's the oldest saying in the book. In 2009 to 2012, there would be 50 people applying for one job, and they would take anything they could get, okay? Right now, people can't find employees. It doesn't make sense. When things don't make sense, that usually means something's going to change. This is Laricy Live, and I'm your host, Matt Laricy, giving you unfiltered access to the world of real estate. We cover market trends, news, and give you the honest answers that will keep you ahead of the real estate game. Okay, so today we were talking about going back to the office. When's it going to happen? How's it going to affect the market? Is it ever going to happen? We're seeing a lot of people relocating, so what we wanted to do is kind of cover the basis of like what's going back to the office going to mean. So what percentage of workers are back in the office in Chicago today? The last set I saw was hovering around about 30 to 35% of people are back in the office full time. Whether or not that stat's true, I can't say. I've read a few articles that mention those numbers. That's where it's hovering around. So that's obviously still a terrible stat, considering that means that 70 to 65% people are still not in the office, but it's definitely up from where it was at this time last year. And we're definitely seeing a lot more people in the loop. I mean, a year ago or 2 years ago, if you went to Loop around lunchtime, it looked like a zombie wasteland, and now there's people everywhere. I mean, you got to stop at stoplights now. Before, you really didn't have to stop at a stoplight down in the Loop. How long do you originally think it would take for people to get back? I thought by now we'd be at 50 to 60%. So we're definitely behind it, but we are seeing a transition. I honestly think that the looming recession is going to speed that up. I personally think we'll see 90% of people back to the office by 2024. Who knows? Maybe wrong, maybe right, but I think it's heading in that direction. How has working from home impacted Chicago's real estate market over the last few years? Now, Chicago as a whole has greatly benefited from the work from home, but not the Chicago markets we work. We work in the downtown market, so most people left the downtown markets to go to like a Chicago suburb because they're like, hey, there's no reason for me to live in 900 square feet of space when there's no restaurants or bars or anything open. And I can have a backyard, and I got kids, and they got to go to schools, et cetera, and the schools down here were closed. The schools were closed, so, and that's why people kind of migrated out, and that's why, you saw double-digit price growth in Chicago in May for the first time in history, but that stat's misleading because it makes it seem like the downtown market's good. The downtown market's been terrible. So the working from home has impacted the market in a horrible way for anything downtown and for an unbelievable way for something in the suburbs. I actually know that, on a side note, it's funny because I have a few people I know that are suburb agents that are selling in the city, and they got a listing downtown that they called me up, and one of them said, hey, I don't understand what's happening. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I got a listing and it's been sitting for 30 days. I said, okay. And he goes, it's crazy. I haven't seen that in 3 years. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, all my business is out X suburb. And I said, yeah, well, in that suburb, there's like a week of inventory. In the area that you're trying to sell, there's 6 months of inventory. It's a big difference. So that's how these markets are getting affected because you're seeing, a lot of inventory and less people, and that obviously leads to a worse market. What working from home trends are you hearing about right now? I actually I guess what working. Well, I can answer this in two ways. A working from home trend we're seeing that people are looking for is more space. Okay, so they need room for a desk, room to be able to work from home, etc. And then the other trend that we're starting to see from working from home is that people are starting to have to be on a hybrid approach. So we're seeing that people are now starting to complain from where they bought because they have to start commuting back. What types of offices have workers headed back and which didn't? I'm not seeing a lot of data analysis going back to the office yet, but I am seeing a lot of people that are lawyers. We're seeing a lot of entry-level jobs in the consultant industry go back to work. I'm actually seeing a lot of tech people, even though tech people claim they're never going back to work. I mean, I've had a ton of West Loop sales recently, and those are tech guys going back to the office. So those are the major players I've seen. There's a lot of people who said that their offices are never, ever going back to work. We'll see if that holds true. But there's a lot of industries that said they were more efficient and effective working from home. But guys, we have to remember all those studies were done in 2020 and the first part of 2021, where most of the country was in complete lockdown. There was nothing open. Now it's a beautiful day out, and you're working from home, and your friends are going out for brunch. because, nobody actually has to check in and say they work, and everybody's just making money. So they're going out to brunch and things aren't getting done as much. And that's why you even hearing and reading about like why we have these supply chain issues and why there's all this stuff's taking so long. It's because nobody's working, but they're all getting paid. I fully believe the reason, like when people say like things take longer right now, is because nobody's efficient at all. And when this recession hits, business is going to start saying like, hey, we just can't keep handing out paychecks and not make any money. Because now the money that the businesses are making is going to start drying up, and inflation's going up, and that's going to cause a lot of people to start losing their jobs, and it's going to make people go back to the office, and people are going to be more efficient. I could be wrong, but I think this whole thing that's happened is absolute bullshit, and the fact that we can't get anybody to work and everybody's making too much money doing nothing, it's just not lasting. It's not sustainable the way it's heading. And the inflation in market right here that's happening in the stock market, I should say, is showing firsthand that, we're seeing something big is going to happen. Our buyers still looking for home office space. Yes, right now we're starting to see, or we still see a lot of people looking for that. I think 2.5 years from now, people aren't going to be talking about it as much, but for the time being, it is. What is a hybrid work model? It means that people are working part-time in the office. We're typically seeing people work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in offices. Now, the big thing to kind of notice with that trend is if you guys are in like the quote unquote downtown area, so like think like South Loop up to like Lakeview, that like you're seeing traffic be really bad on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And if you're wondering why is traffic so bad today, it's Wednesday, it's because people are back to work that day. But on Fridays, most people aren't back to work right now, and that's why there's not as much traffic at 5 o'clock. What do you think of Google Thompson Center news? So for those of you guys that didn't hear, Google bought the Thompson Center, and they're moving their business there. I think it's great news. We've had, Citadel and Boeing, two huge companies, move out of Chicago, and we're now having one bigger company than, if you actually combine both those companies, Google makes more than both of them. Now, this isn't their new, they're not moving Google from California to here. It's just going to be the new hub here, and I think it's huge. And Google is a very influential company. So if other companies now hey, Google's in the Thompson Center, we want to be close to it, and now that could spur a lot of other businesses to move to the Loop. Time's going to tell if that's going to happen, but it could be a big thing. Will big names like Google help bring people back to the Loop? Yeah. Listen, it's kind of like when there's a cool kid at a party, you want to be there because all the cool kids are there. So now a cool kid just went to the Loop, other people are naturally going to follow. Now, is that going to spur a ton of extra people, or is it going to be one business and then it's going to fizzle? I think, all eyes are on Google, and we should all be focusing on it, because if they do crush it, it could completely transform the Loop. Are commercial vacancies still on the rise? Yes, and there's certain people starting going to foreclosure. We're going to start seeing some of these commercial buildings convert to apartment buildings, we're hearing, because the rental market's so hot. So yeah, they're definitely struggling. And honestly, Michigan Avenue is getting demolished. They're at 29% vacancy rate now, which is up. And who wants to be on Michigan Avenue right now? With all the crime and everything that's going on, it's been tough. And we did a podcast, last year about this. But somebody needs to figure something out to change that, because that has not gotten any better. It's actually gotten worse in the last year. Are you seeing clients move from the city to the burbs? Yeah. The empty nester market's been huge lately, huge. In fact, I was out last night with somebody who was like, hey, I got a 12,000 square foot house. Kids went to college. We don't need this house. Market's hot. We're going to sell and get a place downtown. It's just a big thing that people are doing right now. It's like a year ago, people didn't do it because there's nothing open. Now things are open again, and people are coming back to the city, and they're falling back in love with the city again. They're like, wow, I forgot how much I liked it. The biggest thing that's deterring people is the crime situation, but, if that starts to turn around, we'll be in a good spot. What's the main driving force for buyers moving into the city right now? Kids leaving the house, want to be closer to action. Not as much going back to work, but once that back to work model reopens, it's going to bring a lot more people back. What hybrid or work from home trends are you hearing about from clients? Honestly, it's just mostly Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the office, what I'm hearing from majority of my clients. And I remember a year ago, specifically, I could, without even thinking, 10 clients off the top of my head that said they would never, ever, ever, ever even have a hybrid approach, and now they're on hybrid. Let's think about a year from now, how many people are going to be full-time. I think you'll see 50, 60 people. I'm sorry, 50 to 60% of people on a full-time back to office by this time next year, especially if this economy continues to get worse. You guys got to remember, like, businesses can't control, like, can't keep just giving out money and not making money back. It's just not sustainable. It's not sustainable for an employee to be able to walk into their office, tell their boss to F off, and then go down the street to the competitor and get paid more and not have to worry about getting a job. Like, in the history of humanity, the employee has never had power over the employer, okay? So the employee right now runs the show, and the boss is afraid of the employee. Go back and look in your history books. Look at anything. If you go to the medieval times, do you think the peasants would go up to the king and be like, hey, we're going to do this today, you know, have a good day, and we'll see you later. Like, he'd be like, off with your head. It's done, right? You know, now today, you know, when we have businesses, you know, things are run a little bit different than, you know, when we have, like, you know, like dukes and stuff like that. We have things called bosses, and they actually created this word, the boss, because he's the one that's in charge. And you as an employee has to listen to the boss. Well, after the pandemic hit, the employee got to tell the boss what to do. And the employee wanted to get paid, and they wanted everything given to them, and they didn't want to do anything in return. So they wanted to take, but they didn't want to give back. Well, when this recession hits and the boss's pockets are dry and like, hey, I can't afford to give to you, I don't have any money. And the employee's like, that's fine, I'll go down the street. And they go down the street, and the other person's like, yeah, I'm sorry, we don't have any money either. And they're going to go down the street. And they're going to be like, yeah, honestly, I don't have any money to hire you either. And that's what's going to happen. If you think it's not going to happen, just wait and see. History repeats itself, guys. It's the oldest saying in the book. In 2009 to 2012, there would be 50 people applying for one job, and they would take anything they could get, okay? Right now, people can't find employees. It doesn't make sense. When things don't make sense, that usually means something's going to change. I remember, don't you remember in 2004, 5, and 6, there's that movie called The Big Short. There's a stripper who owned 6 homes, and she didn't work. And you're wondering, like, how does this girl own 6 homes? How's everybody so rich? And then the bubble burst. And then everybody looked back, was like, oh, we knew this was going to happen. You know, we all knew this was coming, but, like, we just didn't prepare or think it would happen to us. Well, guess what? Right now is the warning. I'll tell everybody right now. This is the warning. You're going to look back a year from now and be like, shit, I knew I could have done something better, protected my job more, done something more to stand out, because now it's going to change. And how does this all relate to real estate? It's a direct correlation, because the more people who are forced back to the office, that means the more desirable the city's going to be. That means that, you know, there's going to be people having to open up restaurants to support people needing to eat. It means that, you know, apartments and condos are going to start to fill because people are going to want to live down there. You're going to start seeing crime naturally start to kind of go down because there's going to be more and more people there, and it's not going to be it was easy to get away with this shit when there's nobody here, but now that when everybody gets affected, that's when things change. So, like, everything in life you can relate directly back to the real estate market. And this is a prediction we have that this is going to happen. And that's what we're talking about, going back to the office, because we're not there. We're not there yet. We may not be there for a year or 2 years or 3 years or maybe 5 years. But at some point in the history that we're alive, it will happen again. What hybrid work from home trends? We've talked about that. Can WFH, I like how they abbreviate this, work from home trends impact real estate trends? We talked about that. Are you hearing a lot of buyers or sellers bringing up their current work schedule models? Yeah. I mean, it's like a big thing we talk about. You know, all people talk about, the first thing they say is like, hey, I'm working from home forever, or I'm on a hybrid model. Or the new one I'm starting to hear is like, yeah, we're getting forced back to the office on X date, or we've already been forced back to the office. It's huge. It's a huge trend. And you know what? Most of my clients that are successful talk about how they like going back to the office. And I know I'm going to offend people when I say that, but a lot of people do like going back to the office. How do you think changing work models will impact Chicago's real estate market? Again, as we talked about, the more people who come back here, the more attractive the city is going to be. Can the return to the office finally flip the loop into a seller's market? It could. Inventory levels have been dropping consistently. Market time's been dropping consistently. The more people who are going back to the office is going to make the loop a more attractive place to live. How is city traffic during these hybrid models? Like I said, Tuesday to Thursday, traffic's terrible. Monday and Friday, there's nobody on the streets. So stay out of the city Tuesday to Thursday, and you won't see as many people, driving around the city. Do you think more people will be moved back downtown if their offices are full-time again? Yeah. When it takes you 2 hours each way to get in, that's 4 hours of your day you lose because of traffic. You're going to start seeing it again. You're going to start seeing the metro be completely jam-packed. Everything's going to change when everybody's back at the office. Right now, it's fictitious the way it lives. Are you seeing a lot of traffic from buyers who are relocating to Chicago from work? Yeah. Probably the main people I'm selling to right now is out-of-state and out-of-the-country buyers who are relocating to go back to the office. It's crazy. I know people think it's not happening. I am personally seeing it firsthand every single day. Somebody's reaching out because they're going back to the office. So literally the minute I get off of this podcast, I have a Zoom to get on very shortly with a buyer who's out of state who is relocating because he's got to be working in his office by mid-October. It's a very, very common thing. Are you seeing a lot? What work from home trend should we expect to see for the rest of the year? I think you're going to start seeing less. I think you're going to start seeing less and less people working from home. It will not be as much of the norm. Everybody says that this is the new norm. This is how it's going to be. The easiest thing to know in life, guys, to be successful is when everybody looks left to look right. That's the easiest way. You ever wonder why the house always wins in Vegas? Like, it's not rocket science. They just know that eventually you're going to gamble enough or you're going to lose it all. Okay? Sure, you got a couple of buddies who hit it big. Sure, you know one guy that won the lottery ball. Okay? But how many people do you know that didn't win? It's the same thing with life and looking at the future. Like this new norm, this bullshit that they're feeding you and you're drinking the Kool-Aid, like it's not here to stay forever. It's just not. I don't care what anybody says to me. We'll talk 5 years from now and we'll see if it's real or not. And when that happens, the city will be more attractive again. Do you think big layoffs are coming? Absolutely. 1,000%. We're going to see huge layoffs happen. You're seeing right now the mortgage industry is laying off people in droves. I have friends that are mortgage lenders that are now hurting. They're getting second jobs. They can't afford to live the lifestyle they live. They ran out of money. They thought that gravy train was going to keep running. They were getting Lamborghinis, buying houses they couldn't afford. They thought, that they would keep doing the business they did, and then all of a sudden refis drop at like 80% or something like that. Mortgage applications are the lowest they've been in like 10 years or since 2009 or something like that. It's longer than that. And now these guys don't have anything, so they started laying off people in mortgage industries. Real estate market's starting to take a dip, okay? Now you're seeing real estate companies start to lay people off. This is just the beginning. The real estate market was really hot. It's going away. The stock market was really hot. We're starting to see that go away. If a company's worth $1 billion and then today it's worth $500 million and they just lost half their profits, like, what do you think's going to happen in that business model? Like, do you think that if you make half the money you made before that you could run your business the same way? Because there's these real things called bills, so you have to pay bills. So if you're paying bills and you're making half what you had to make, you're going to have to cut back on costs. And guess what cutting back on costs is? Mostly your biggest expense for any business out there is people, okay? So if you got less money, you're going to do more layoffs. They are coming. Watch for next year. How could a recession and other markets try to impact the Chicago real estate market? I actually think the recession is going to be very good for the market, for where we work. I do. In fact, the economy has been getting substantially worse, and the real estate market's been getting substantially worse for the last 60 days, and our market is actually getting stronger. We're seeing more and more leads in the downtown sectors. The near north side was the second most, was the second highest sales in the entire Cook County region last quarter. Okay, it shows you people are coming back. Now, that stat's a little misleading because there's no sales in the first quarter. So, of course, they're going to have the biggest growth in the second quarter. But what it's doing is showing you firsthand that people are coming back. This is why I tell people, like, I know I'm right on this because I just look at the stats. You could tell me that your opinion is better than mine. That's fine. Let's just look at the stats. We had 24 months of inventory in River North in 2020. We had 12.4 months in 2021. We have 6 months today. It's been getting cut in half. The sales every single month are growing, while the rest of the country, their sales are dropping and their inventory is rising. The city is having the exact opposite effect according to every statistical data point out there. And the reason is because people are coming back to cities. Wall Street Journal published an article 2 days ago that says what's going to bring people back to cities to live there again, if ever. And they went on this tangent about like all these things they have to do. I agree with some of them. I disagree with some of them. But I do have to say, the worse the market gets, the money market gets, stock market, the better we're going to see the city. So the reason we're doing this is to kind of like a little bit of a prediction trend, something to watch out for in the future for offices. We're not saying when we say back to offices, everybody's back to offices. We're saying that it's some trend to watch here, to watch with your own personal businesses, watch with your friends' businesses, see how many people will start slowly going back from work from home to hybrid to full time. And we're going to do another one of these exactly 12 months from now and see how the stats change. That's all we got for you today. Thanks for listening to Laricy Live.